3D printing is actually really easy. In this episode of my 3D Printing 101 series, I'm going to show you how to download a slicing software and how to take a 3D model and slice it and print it. That way you can take your 3D model and turn it into a 3D physical object. I'm Ashley and this is Chip Builds, and so let's jump right into it. So in order to use a 3D printer and 3D print physical objects, what we have to do first is download a slicing software. Now the one that I personally like to use is called Prusa Slicer. It's free and it just works really great, and you can use it with other printers besides the Prusa family of printers. So we can just go into Google and type in Prusa Slicer download. And then I've already downloaded this before, but I'll show you what we need to do. So we can click on the Prusa 3D website. And so since we've clicked this link, it's taking us to the download page, and then depending on if you are a Windows user, Mac user, or even a Linux user, just click and download the appropriate one for your computer type. I have a Mac, so I'm going to download the Mac drivers, and then we can click it and then it will start to download. So if you have a Mac, this little download window will pop up and then you can just save it to wherever you want to. So once you've downloaded it, you need to double click it so you can install. So all you have to do is double click it, and then depending on your security settings, it will ask you if you want to actually open this software or not. I do want to open the software, so let's do that. So once you've downloaded the program onto your computer, then it will go through a setup process, and then you can select what printers you have that you actually want to use with the slicing software. So in this first menu, it's going to ask you what printers you actually own or ones that you plan on using the slicing software. And so since this is the Prusa Slicer, it's going to have the Prusa family of printers pop up first, and then you can just click and add which printers you have or which printers you don't have. So I have many 3D printers, and one of them happened to be the Prusa Mini, so I have that one checked for me, but you only need to check the ones that apply to you and the printers that you own. So with the Prusa Mini selected, I'm going to go to next, and then I don't have any of their resin printers, so I'm just going to leave that blank, and I'm going to click next again. And this is why I think Prusa Slicer is so awesome, is it has this other vendors tab, and it's a bunch of the more popular brands of 3D printers that people commonly use, and you can choose and select which brands you own, and then typically the printer that you own from that brand will pop up, and then you'll be able to use Prusa's determined preset settings on your 3D printer. So we are going to choose that we own an Ender 2 printer, and so we just make sure that's checked, and then we can move on to the next thing. So then also, if you don't own any of the brands of printers, this can be where you can define your own printer profile and choose your own settings. And then also there is a filament selection. So depending on the types of filaments you typically use or want to use, this is where you can add them. And then so I've just clicked the generic PLA and TPU because those are the ones that I have and I use. And then now we can click finish. So now we can see over here in the top right in our settings, it says our print settings is for Creality, because down here where it says printer, we have chosen the Creality Ender 2. So that's how you know that we're going to have the right settings for the right printer. What also helps is that on the screen here, the bed of the printer graphic says Ender 2. So now what we can do is find a 3D model that we want to actually 3D print, and then we can import it into our slicer and put it onto our SD card for our 3D printer. And since this is our first time 3D printing with a 3D model, I suggest just going to a site where you can download free models that other people have designed, rather than just jumping into the design process first thing, just so that you kind of get used to things and kind of see what other people are doing before you try to make your own models. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Colts 3D, and then we can click on here. And there's quite a few different websites where you can find STL files. This is one of my favorite ones. And so in the search bar, I'm just going to type in Cali Dragon. So, and as you can see, we have a ton of search results, and I chose this model because it's really cute. First of all, it can calibrate your machine, and it's free. So we can just click download, and then it will save this 3D model to our computer. And so you have a couple different options here. I just want to download your 3D models. This website, I believe, does make you create an account. So I suggest you do that, and then I'll click download your files, and then just save it to your designated spot. So I'm going to come up here to this box in the top left, and if you hover over it, it says add, and there it also shows you a keyboard shortcut for that tool. So I'm going to click on it, and then my folder is going to pop up. I'm just going to search for where I saved the STL file, and I saved it to my desktop, so now I can click it, and I can click open. And so now it's dropped our STL file in here. We're going to do this little calibration dragon that's pretty popular right now. And you can do a couple things too if you want. You can move this around to any part of the bed. You can rotate it, have it do whatever you need it to do. You can cut it in half. You can do a lot of different things. And then if you come up here to this where it says arrange, you can click it and that will send it straight to the middle of the print bed. So I'm just going to leave it how it is. And then I'm going to come over here to the right and I'm going to make sure it's the settings that I want. And so if we go to print settings, we can see that it says 0.2 millimeter normal. So that means that it's going to print at a kind of normal quality, not super fine, but also not super rough either. And so you can come in and adjust your print settings if you want to. If you're just beginning, I suggest just leave it stock. And then once you kind of get some practice under your belt and print a few things, then you can start messing with settings and change them and try to figure out what works best for you and your printer. So now that the model's good to go, I'm going to come to the bottom right and click Slice Now. And so what slicing actually does is it takes a 3D model and it determines how many layers there's going to be in the 3D model itself as it's printing, because when a 3D printer prints, it's shooting out melted plastic layer by layer. So it'll go layer 1, layer 2, etc. to however many layers there's gonna be. And so that's what the slicing software does for us. So now that we have this all ready to go slice, it says down here it's roughly gonna take about 1 hour and 2 minutes. Now in my experience, typically the 3D prints always take a little bit longer than they actually estimate. But so now that this model is sliced, we can click Export G-code, and then that where we can rename it and save it to our SD card and do what we need to do. And so saving it as a G-code file, it turns that information into G-code, which is lines of different code that the 3D printer will be able to read and then print out our model layer by layer. Well guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you now understand how easy it is to actually 3D print things, and I hope that this helps you get started 3D printing. As always, if you have any questions or comments down below, feel free to leave me a comment and I'll do my best to get back to you. Also, if you want some more one-on-one help, feel free to join my Facebook group where we kind of help with just all different kinds of crafts. It's a safe space to ask very beginner or what you might think might be stupid questions. So we have a lot of fun over there, so come hang out with us and ask any kind of 3D printing questions or laser questions or crafting questions that you might have. So thanks for watching guys, and stay tuned for the next episode.